I keep getting it. A new show. Anyway. Okay, welcome, Dr. Raya. I've spoken with her a few times. I just love what she offers. And so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Dr. Raya, and go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really honored to be here. And I'm Dr. Araya. I live in Monterey, California. I have a PhD in psychology, and I'm a certified life coach and a conscious parent coach. And so I was an engineer until 7-8 years ago, and then I shifted everything because I wanted to find my life purpose. And so it was a brave move, but I did it, and I'm very, very happy that I did, because I really do believe I found my life purpose, and my life purpose is to find joy and live with kindness and peace and love, while doing our daily work, so we can just carry this and elevate the consciousness of the world. So this is perfect, because my PhD dissertation was actually about developing a tool at work. So my subjects were actually 60 employees across all the United States. And the result of the work that I'm going to teach you, actually, the tool that I developed, increased employee well-being, present moment attention, as well as recovery from stress. And all of them will result in kindness at work, for ourselves, kindness for ourselves first, for our family, and for the people who we work with, and therefore the world. So I'm going to just dive in. So I would love for people to just comment in the chat from 0 to 10. How conscious and intentional do you think you are when it comes to your beliefs, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and habits? So if you just punch in a number, Marilyn says 8. Wow, that's awesome. So you think you're conscious 80% of the time. That's wonderful. If anyone else likes to put in their inputs, I can read them, so you can have like a little bit of first assessment. I'll allow a couple of seconds. So how, from 0 to 10, how conscious and intentional do you think you are when it comes to your beliefs, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and habits? Anyone? So it's usually pretty low. The reality is that it's really low, actually. So research shows we have an average of 50,000 thoughts per day, and 95% of them are repetitive, and 85% are negative. And unfortunately, there are mostly regrets from the past and worries about the future. So we're barely in the present moment, and we barely live this moment with fresh and new energy. We literally regurgitate our past, what we were taught in childhood, specifically from 0 to 7 years old. So I think Deepak Chopra called us biological robots. That's why I put that robot there. We literally that, until we make it a practice to become intentional on a moment-to-moment basis about our thoughts, about our behavior, about our feelings, right? And Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So here's another testament. Carl Jung says, you're mainly unconscious, and we have to make these conditioning in our head conscious, so we don't call them faith. And usually these are our thoughts, and this is how it unfolds on a day-to-day life, at work and at home. Something happens, a negative event happens, then we have unconscious thoughts and fears. So they're pretty unconscious. That's why we have to make them unconscious. I'm going to talk about how, but we have these unconscious thoughts and fears that will instigate a reaction. Then we react, we probably send that text, send that email, we yell at our children, we send that email to our colleague, whatever we do, and then we feel shame, we feel, oh, why did I do that? Then there's going to be consequences, and the person is going to feel bad, and the negative event might continue. It's going to be like a vicious cycle. So we want to know what we want to do. How can you replace this vicious unconscious cycle, usually at home and probably at work as well. So here's the thing, all these everything actually originates with a thought. So thoughts that are mainly unconscious, we all know 50,000 thoughts now, they're mainly unconscious. They lead to feelings, and then feelings lead to behavior, and then behaviors become habits, and it will make us, right, as humans. And usually behind the thoughts, there's also belief systems, right? And now we have to kind of find a way to not only become conscious of these thoughts, but not to allow them somehow take a charge of them, so they don't cause those icky feelings and then lead to behaviors. Also, we can, in the feelings, that we can also feel our feelings, but we're talking about the thought level right now. Viktor Frankl says between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. So that's what we're doing. So we have those thoughts, 50,000 thoughts. Of course, we cannot be aware of all of them, but the more we are aware of them, we can actually create a space so we don't react, we don't send that text, we don't send that email, we don't yell at the driver who caught us, that we don't yell at our child if he doesn't want to brush his teeth at this moment. So we can create a space, and then we can, in that space, we're going to choose our response. How am I going to proceed? Maybe I can think, okay, the driver who caught us off, maybe it's rushing to the hospital. I don't know. Just come up with a reasoning for us not to react. And then that's our freedom. That's where our freedom lies, right? So here, I cannot see anyone here. I would love, usually when I offer these workshops, I actually offered the same workshop at Microsoft 2 weeks ago. I would love us, if you can, to close your eyes, and we're going to go through the mindful breathing that I actually developed in my PhD dissertation. And I tell you how I developed it, but it's pretty simple. The practice is very, very simple. We're going to just bring our attention to our breathing on our chest or under our nose. So let's just close your eyes if you can. You can do this with open eyes, all right? So let's just take a deep breath through our nose to our belly, and hold, and out your mouth all the way out. Usually 80% exhale. That will calm us down really right away. Breathe in through your nose, then out your mouth. One more time, breathe in and breathe out. Beautiful. Now let's just bring our attention to the sensation of our breathing, either on our chest or under our nose. When the chest goes up and down, just pay attention there. And as soon as you're aware of a thought, just detach and come back to that breathing sensation. As soon as you're aware of a thought, you can imagine it's a cloud and you are the sky. Let the cloud pass and come back to your sensation on your breathing on your chest. Oops, I'm thinking, imagine it's a wagon and a train. Do not jump on the train and come back to the breathing on your chest. Beautiful. Now open your eyes slowly and have a soft gaze, but maintain your awareness on your breathing on your chest. This is dual awareness. Maintain your awareness on your chest where it rises and falls. You can imagine your kid is not listening to you, or your colleague says something hurtful, or your boss criticizes you, your spouse doesn't agree with you. See them in front of you, but maintain your awareness on your breath. It's like you're creating the space between the stimulus and your reaction. Beautiful. So I hope if you did this exercise, I would love to see your your experience, if you liked it, where you're able to maintain that dual awareness, where you're able to create that space. It's like you're zooming out, kind of. So you create that space that Viktor E. Frankl talked about, right? This one, right? So this is how we become empowered to choose our response. Let me think about it. What approach am I going to take with my child? Because if I want to do conscious parenting, yes, beautiful. Genevieve says, beautiful. You like that. Okay. So because my child is actually not responding, not listening to me, because maybe his autonomy is being violated, maybe because he's not feeling connected. My boss, maybe he's seeing another perspective that is not seeing my perspective. If I get reactive, I will not be able to articulate my perspective in a meaningful and wise way. I'll become reactive, and things might go to that vicious cycle. So there you go. So this was the practice, the mindful breathing practice that I developed in my PhD dissertation. And my employees, there were 60 of them, they were supposed to have 3 reminders. So I highly suggest, because this is now science, to have 3 reminders on your phone and do what we just did. Just bring your attention to your breathing on your chest. As soon as a thought comes, you detach and you come back to your breathing, and do this for 1 minute. So the topic was 1 minute mindful breathing micro breaks, right? For attention, well-being, and recovery from stress. And you do this, and this way you are retraining your brain, because our brain is wired for mind wandering, right? We are eating, we're thinking about work. We are working, we're thinking about our kids. We're with the kids, we're thinking about what to make for food. So we're mind wandering, and these are usually regrets from the past and fears about the future. By bringing your attention to our breathing on our chest, or the present moment experience. If you're eating, where do I taste the food? Is it the tip of my tongue? Is it the back of my tongue? I'm going to anchor my attention to the present moment, so my brain is not going to have any capacity, any resources left to think about the worries about the future and the fear and the regrets about the past, right? So 3 reminders on your phone, 1 minute, you do this, and you're set to go, and you're rewiring your brain for mindfulness. So mindfulness is the non-judgmental observation of the present moment experience, and it brings joy, as I said, because we are not thinking about the worries about the future, the fears about the future, or the regrets about the past. And it's going to create the space between stimulus and response. It decreases stress and increases well-being. And mind wandering is the opposite of mindfulness. As I just said, we have 50,000 thoughts per day, 80% negative, 95% repetitive, and the regrets from the past and worries for the future. So this is how we are rewiring our brain for more love, more kindness, more compassion, more joy, right? So we have to be very aware of these automatic negative thoughts, or these little ants, right? Okay, so research shows that American Institute of Stress has shown 80% of workers feel stressed on the job, and nearly half say they need help in learning how to manage stress. And guess what? When we are stressed, we don't have kindness. We are not kind with ourselves, and we are not kind with everyone else, right? And unmanaged stress at work reduces job performance, increases healthcare costs, impairs collegial relationships, communications, and decision-making process. And mindfulness practices are shown to reduce employee stress, improve well-being, enhance productivity, decrease employers' costs, benefiting both employees and employers. So when we go through the day, we have to make sure, when we're working at home, at work, we have 3 states usually. We have the red zone, the fight, we have the blue zone, the flight, and we have the green zone, which is the balanced state of mind, homeostasis, where all is well, and I am actually able to think with my smart brain, my higher brain over here. And I can be kind, I can be compassionate, I can see perspectives, right? But here's the thing, we usually usually people who step into personal development, we feel so guilty, because when we yell, when we get triggered, and we just feel guilty, why did I do that? I know better. But here's the thing, this is the nature of human being. We have the other 2 zones. So our only goal needs to be staying longer in the green zone and coming back to green zone quicker when we go to either of these zones, right? So it's not, the goal is not to always stay in the green, but to come back quicker and stay longer, right? So this is the goal that we might all have. And when we go to either of zones, then we're going to forgive ourselves quickly, accept our humanness, know that the mind is wired for fight or flight, is wired for fear, right? Because our brain is constantly monitoring our surrounding for possible threats. And because it's the primitive brain, right? So we have to make it a practice on a moment-to-moment basis, really ask ourselves, is this a real threat? Can I cultivate compassion and perspective shifting? Or no, I have to go fight, right? So it's all about awareness, and mindful breathing is the most fundamental tool to rewire our brain for this. So all this is beautiful, but if you do not practice mindful breathing, it's just a beautiful book at the shelf. That's it, right? So here's what's happening in our brain when there's a negative event, all right? So we have a belief. For example, my child should listen to me, right? We have a thought, okay, my child is probably pushing my button, for example, or my colleague, it doesn't matter. Then we have a fear. What if my boss doesn't like me and will fire me, right? What if my child turn out to be this self-centered person? All these fears and thoughts and beliefs are unconscious, remember. And the only way we make them conscious is by mindful breathing, by remember they're all unconscious. And I'm just going to tell, I usually give like a nice exercise at this slide, but it's going to take time, but I'm just going to give you the result. Usually these fears that we have is associated with a childhood memory. It's a past pain that we had specifically from 0 to 7 years old, right? So it's usually connected. So that's why when something happens right now, it's like we have an old wound and the current situation is going to poke that old wound. It's like, oh, I have pain. Oh, I have pain. And we assume that it's this person, it's my boss, it's my colleagues, my child, it's my spouse that is poking. But no, the current situation is instigating, is invoking a past memory in childhood, 3, 4. For example, I'll give you an example. Everything we do is connected to our childhood, right? One of my clients, she had this aversion towards ice cream. And when we did some work, we found out that when she was 3, she was eating ice cream and her parents were fighting so loud near her. And that's why she's associating this bad memory, bitter memory with ice cream. Now she doesn't like ice cream, right? So everything we do is really just take it from like a psychological fact that is related to something, a memory in childhood. Literally, again, that 95% that is repetitive, that's what it is. We are just regurgitating our past memories, our past conditioning, right? And this will create a feeling in us, loneliness, guilt, shame, and then we get triggered. So there's this chasm between that event and us. And that's why we have to create the space and really understand what's going on, and don't blame things, people in the moment because they don't do anything, right? Whatever my boss does might trigger me, but might not trigger my colleague, right? So because I have that really associated wound with it, right? That, oh, I had a perfectionist dad, for example, and my dad really wanted me to be the best, and I always seek approval. And now that my boss is not happy with me, I'm projecting my dad, my desire onto him, right? But my colleague might be like, oh, he didn't say anything, right? So we have to become very aware of the reality, because we don't see the reality because it's unconscious. And this is how we make it conscious, right? So Carl Jung says everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Again, this is another beautiful quote by him, because we not only feel like a victim and blame the other person, but it's like, oh, thank you, I'm getting triggered by you, there's a wound in me, let me figure out what that wound is, and let me soothe my inner child, because my inner child is feeling hurt. Every time we are angry, our inner child is angry, right? So this is how we know ourselves and people around us, especially our close people, like our loved ones, like our children, our parents, right? So we have to thank them. Thank you, teacher, I'm going to know more about me. And Janet Jacobson says, if it is in my life, then it is in me. The people in our lives that push our buttons and rouse our judgments are mirroring back to us our disowned parts. How nice of them. The goal is wholeness. Loving and accepting all our parts is what makes us whole. So now for assignment, if you're up for it, I want you to take your time and list all your triggers. If you get triggered with your children, your spouse, your friends, your parents, your colleagues, your boss, your manager, your employees, right? And figure out, as we did those 6 steps, the chasm, figure out the memory, figure out the feelings. What thoughts do you have about it? What beliefs? What wound is it? What memory is it instigated in you? Meditate and really say, I feel triggered, and I feel lonely, I feel guilty, and I remember this feeling. Close your eyes and say, oh, when I was 3, this happened and that happened. And once you make this conscious, as Dr. Dan Siegel says, these become explicit memories that were implicit because they were unconscious. And now we are thinking about them, writing about them. It's like you are doing therapy to yourself. That's how therapy works, right? Because they will come up, they will become explicit. So we are making them explicit, and they lose their sabotaging powers. And this is how we heal. So we're going to get curious about the associated past wounds, our feelings and thoughts, and journal them. This journaling is an amazing way for healing. So another topic that I want to talk about, and I touched on it a little bit, is about the perspective, right? I have a perspective. I think this is the truth, and the other person is seeing completely different thing from me. I'm telling you, we have different worlds. We live in different planets, literally. Like the color white, we see different shades. We don't see the world the same at all. And I think the gravest mistake human being is making is this, that we believe everyone sees the world the same as us. And whatever I'm saying, even right now, I know you might get 20-30% of it. I know right now that you will not get the 100% of the stuff that I want you to receive. I know that for a fact. So that's how we shift our perspective. For example, there is no truth. No one sees the truth even. We just see a version. So the truth is the cylinder. As you see, the shadow on one wall is a square or rectangle, and the other shadow is a circle. So for example, when my son comes in and he's complaining about something about his teacher or his friend, I say, oh, she is looking at a circle. Are you seeing your circle? You're seeing your rectangle. So it's a great metaphor, great imagery for us to know that we just see the world so differently. And when we feel triggered and we lose our compassion, our discernment, and our kindness, it's because we believe that the other person is seeing what we're seeing, and they're malicious and they're doing something wrong. No one in this world thinks they're doing the wrong thing. No one in the world wakes up and says, oh, I'm going to do the wrong thing. Everybody is doing their best to do the right thing. So that's how we shift our perspective. So, and when people get angry, or when we get angry, just remember it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's all sorts of suppressed and unfelt and unhealed feelings and wounds are under the iceberg: depressed, rejected, embarrassed, scared, disappointed, helpless, attacked, jealous, guilty, offended, anxious, insecure, all sorts of things. When people are angry, because anger is protection, it's just a secondary emotion, it means they are hurt within themselves. It has nothing to do with us. And when we get angry, it has nothing to do with others, because it has something to do with the wound that we have from childhood. We have to take the time, create that space, and be kind to ourselves, soothe our own inner child, and heal ourselves, so we can actually activate our smart brain to proceed with kindness and compassion. The same way behavior, if someone does something, it's just a symptom. Again, underneath there's, am I loved? Am I worthy? Am I safe? Am I being heard? Can I do this? Do I matter? Do I have a choice? Do I belong? This will go even for adults, for managers and bosses. Like if they are being hurtful, this is what's going on in them. Like their inner child is feeling one of these or more. So I would like to, so I think our time is up, I believe, kind of. We have a couple of more minutes. So these are some of the tools that I would recommend to interrupt that fight or flight and cultivate compassion, as well as self-compassion, right? Because if we don't have self-compassion, we cannot have compassion. All love is self-love, and all hate is self-hate. We have to remember, everything is in here. Nothing is out there. So mindful breathing, micro breaks, only the 1 minute ones, 3 times a day, right? And then every time we get triggered, take 3 deep belly breaths. go and breathe in, go really inflate your tummy, because we usually breathe the other way around. You're going to breathe in and inflate the tummy and then out. 80% exhale. Count down from 5 to 1. Also, we can use our favorite mantra. This is not an emergency. This is not a life or death, because our primitive brain, at the back of the brain, as I said, is thinking everything is threatening, everything is a threat to our survival. So we have to say these mantras. The adult self will say, oh no, thank you, because that brain has been built from 0 to 7. Remember, so it's very naive, very, very simple-minded. So we're gonna grow and become the adult and say, it's not an emergency, it's not a life or death. They're doing their best. Use your favorite mantra. Allow yourself to feel your feelings for 1 minute. Cultivate self-compassion. Again, this is another way. Just create that pause. If you don't do mindful breathing, you cannot do these things, because we have to retrain our brain for mindfulness, as I said, so it doesn't get run by automatic conditioning. So when we take that space, we can feel our feelings. How do I feel? I feel angry, I feel lonely, I feel guilty. Find feeling, really Google and list of feelings, feel that feeling. And the good news is that the maximum duration of each feeling is not only 90 seconds. So usually for me, 20-30 seconds is good enough. When I feel the feeling, it will dissolve. Rumi says the cure for pain is in the pain. So we feel the feeling and it will dissolve. It's really counterintuitive, but it works, because the ego doesn't want us to feel bad. But we have to say, no, I'm the adult, I'm going to feel the feeling. So we just don't think about the story, we feel the feeling in our body. Separate yourself physically from the situation if possible for 5 to 20 minutes, so the cortisol hormone, the stress hormone, will fall. Look for another perspective, as we talked, and set compassionate boundaries, and cultivate gratitude and compassion, and focus on the positive. Of course, that's also another way. So gratitude is amazing. As you can see here, this is the state of appreciation. The heart and brain are very coherent, but in the state of frustration, the heart and brain are not only coherent, but they're really jaggedy themselves individually. So that's why all these good feelings, positive feelings that everyone's talking about, they really work. But we have to do the work underneath, and that's about the feelings, perspective shifting, healing the wound, so the positive becomes easier, because otherwise it's going to be so hard. I want to be positive while underneath we have so much pain. All right, so I think I am gonna finish here. I'm gonna stop. If there's any questions, I'm gonna stop sharing. Marie, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
You still have half an hour.
I thought we did I had only half an hour.
Yeah, but you started at 2 o'clock. It's only 2:22.
Oh, okay. I thought I started a little bit earlier, but okay. I have some. Oops, sorry. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here. You're still sharing.
Okay. Sorry. So let me see here.
But because there's a 3 o'clock, we're going to do an open networking session. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I thought I was running.
No need to rush. No need to rush.
Okay, I was kind of rushing. Okay.
You need to take a deep breath.
Okay. Yes. I was rushing. All right. So I wanted to share this tool, which will really help with cultivating compassion and kindness and perspective shifting. And it's a conscious formula, conscious communication formula that I usually share and I practice with people. And you can take a snapshot of this. This is from the Imago formula. And when people talk, we usually listen. We don't listen to listen. We usually listen to respond. So that's why the first step, which is mirroring, is essential, right? When we talk. So it's important when we talk, our colleagues are talking, our children, our spouses, to really listen without thinking, oh, I'm going to respond, I'm going to defend myself. So that's why the most important formula for conscious communication, first of all, is no criticism. We don't want to criticize everyone. We usually start with I feel this way when that. So when people talk short sentences, these are the rules. Short sentences start with I, no criticism. We mirror. So when a person talks, we listen so carefully that we can actually mirror and paraphrase. So we say, if I got it, I think you said, and then we paraphrase what the other person said. And usually when couples come to me, I use this for couples, and almost all the time, people say, no, I didn't say that. So that's just another evidence that we don't hear people. When people talk, we don't hear so many words. We mishear some words, like we think we heard something else, but they said something else, and then we misinterpret some things. So we barely actually understand people. That's why it's important. The first step is important. So, like it's the most important step, really, mirroring. So if I got it, I think you said. And then we do this over and over again until the person is finished talking. And then after that, so we're going to talk about only one subject, very brief, right? Very short sentences, no criticism, and always start with I. The next step is validate. So that for validation, this is again about perspective shifting. We're going to shift our perspective. We're going to put ourselves in the other person's shoe, and we'll say, that makes sense to me because, and then this is not just some random superficial way to talk, but really we should make sense out of the situation, put ourselves in the person's shoe, and really we feel their energies. That, oh my gosh, that makes sense to them when they did that. So that's the next step. And the third step is empathize, which is going even deeper. I can imagine you might be feeling. So we put ourselves in their shoes so much that we can actually feel their pain. So this is how we can shift that perspective and be so proactive and discerning and compassionate when it comes to other people. Because as I said, no one in this world wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to do the wrong thing. Even the criminals think they're doing the right thing with whatever they have and their circumstances. And it's our job to understand other people's perspective. It doesn't mean that we allow the wrongdoing. We set good boundaries, but for the first step, we're going to understand them so we can actually communicate with effectively, not just criticizing. Like when people come to me, when there are two people, a mother and child or couples, I say, okay, until I teach you this tool, do not talk, because you're talking Chinese, you're talking Italian, you need a translator. Literally, we think people understand us, and that's the biggest mistake we make as humans. We have to pause, we have to allow people to talk, we should mirror and understand other people's perspective. And then this will cultivate so much compassion for even the people who are angry and mean, because they're hurt and they're seeing the world as scary. And then when we do this, we have compassion for ourselves and we can actually set good boundaries. So we say, so all of these things, all of these steps, doesn't mean we're agreeing with the other person, with their attitude, with their behavior. This is just the foundation for us to understand the other person so that we can communicate better and more effectively. Yes, we cultivate compassion to be able to set boundaries. Exactly. But if we are reactive, again, going back to the beginning of the workshop, when we are reactive and we're not thinking, when we believe our thoughts and believe they're doing the wrong thing, and we believe what a jerk this person is, all these things that we have in our head, then we are not effective because we feel like a victim. Oh my God, I'm a victim. This person is mean. Then I don't have any power. I'm disempowered. So this was the thing that I wanted to go over. And also, if you have time, do we still have time? It's just 2 minutes. I wanted to show this little clip when it comes to gratitude and the feelings that we have, how it will affect others. Can I share this?
Yeah, go ahead. You got lots of time.
Okay, so.
Over the past 18 years, our research centers investigated heart-brain interactions, how the heart and the brain communicate with each other and how that affects consciousness and our perceptions. One of the things we identified in our research was the state we now call coherence. And what we found was that when we're feeling positive emotions, like we're really appreciating the sunset or really feeling love or compassion or care for someone, that the heart beats out a very different message. The heart generates by far the largest rhythmic electromagnetic field produced in the body. And what we've now found is that if we look at the spectrum analysis of the magnetic field radiated by the heart, that emotional information is actually encoded and modulating into those fields. So by learning to shift our emotions, that's changing the information we're encoding into the magnetic fields radiated by the heart, and that can impact those around us. We are fundamentally and deeply interconnected with each other and the planet itself, and what we do individually really does count and matters.
So this is the institute that developed these graphs are from that institute to see how the brain and heart are coherent in an appreciation state and how they're jagged in a frustration state. So, and our feelings, our moods, our state of mind and heart will actually affect people around us, and that's how we cultivate more compassion. Yes, if you're reactive thinking negatively, we are disempowered. Exactly. Yes, and gratitude is the most effective. So that's gratitude. Cultivating gratitude in the morning is perfect. It's a perfect way to set our moods, because when we are feeling in high vibrations, by feeling grateful for what we have right now, sometimes in the morning I say, what if I didn't have my right hand, and I do, and I feel grateful for my right hand. So literally we're going to cultivate these feelings, not just remember, oh, I have this house, I have this, I have that, but really feeling grateful will increase our vibration, and then it will affect the people and things around us. Even things like this institute is measuring, I don't know if you know about them, but they're measuring the effect that our feelings have on things. I think they measured over yogurt, even if it affects yogurt, right? So it's super important how our internal feelings and how we are not in a victimhood and blaming state. Yes, HeartMath Institute. Yes. I can't hear you.
Sorry, is it heartmath.com or what's the link? For that?
I think .org. I'm
Okay.
not sure. Yeah. They're actually in Santa Cruz. Heartmath.com. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard lots about them, and yeah, one girl just said she really likes using HeartMath because it is able to calm me down quicker.
Yes, I have their device. You put something on your ear, but I've never used it. So, but I'm really good at regulating myself. So I've become good. I practice on a moment-to-moment basis, like having 3 reminders. I usually, at the beginning, I had hourly reminders to just pause and connect and feel grateful and feel feelings. This is how we rewire our brain from fight or flight all the time, fight or flight, to presence, to compassion, to discernment, to joy, peace, love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all could use more and more of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, good. Well, I don't really have any questions. Does somebody else that's on the call have any questions? There's 6 people, so somebody must have questions. But anyway, yeah. No, it's all really good. It's all about